handle more business.
Happy Thursday, and welcome to episode 7 of Handle More Business. Today, our topic sustainability. Super happy to be joined by Derek Sabori. He's a longtime sustainability professional. He's helped a lot of brands, big brands, and a lot of industries. And going back to how I know Derek and I met when he was leading sustainability for Volcom, which is a brand I've followed since they started. And at that time, I was leading the PR for Etnies and 32 Snowboards, which was a super fun time of my life. And since then, Derek's accomplished a lot, and I've continued growing in PR and marketing as well. And super happy to connect today and talk about sustainability and provide some real insights and steps companies can take to build a sustainability strategy. Derek, could you give us just a little overview of your background?
Yeah, thanks, Ashton. It's been great. It's great that our paths are still aligned and that we continue to cross up like this. I'm just really glad to be here. Thanks for having me. My background, was many years in sustainability at the brand Volcom, and it started off in the early 2000s. So it's been a while, but a lot of it came from just me being curious, being intrigued. I was a little bit frustrated that I hadn't learned much about sustainability in either of the degrees that I had, whether it was an art degree or a business degree, and or what we were doing in the industry at the time. Nobody was talking about it, and I was really sort of fascinated with the idea of us doing business better. And I just dove in. And the more I learned, the more that people assumed I was, an expert, the more they assumed that, the more I needed to learn. And it just snowballed from there. And before you know it, I'm the vice president of global sustainability for the brand. And it was just such a great opportunity and so fun working with other brands alongside other brands and just meeting so many interesting people in the space. So that's where it all started.
Well, that's super cool. Since then, you've worked with brands as a consultant, right? With your consulting business?
That's right. So 2015, I left Volcom to go start a small little brand, focused almost solely on doing sustainable business. And that was a fun effort. But while I was doing that, I launched what was called the Underswell. And I built this course called the School of Understanding. I wanted to help companies and brands with their sustainability journey, with their strategy, how to execute, how to communicate, just what it takes, how to build a team, put resources in place, everything that it takes just to make a successful sustainability program. And it worked. And what started off as consulting ended up being an online school. I call it the School of Understanding. And some brands and companies started putting their employees through the course. And what I really started to lean in on was just this idea of getting people educated so that they could go and do the work. Because I really found this sort of gap between the one person typically in a company that knows a lot about sustainability and everybody else that needs to be doing the work and, sort of pushing towards the goals that companies have or talking about them. But most of us just didn't get sustainability education in our schooling, in our degrees, or in our experience, yet every position is sort of expected to work on sustainability. So I really put an effort with the School of Understanding to really just get people educated so that they could help do the work and drive companies forward in their efforts.
That's cool. Well, that kind of brings us to where we are today and how this became a topic. So about a year ago, just under a year ago, Kevin Lawton from the New Warehouse podcast, who really has a huge following in warehousing and material handling, the whole industry seems to pay attention to his pod, which is cool. He did a poll and he asked the industry, what marketing communication topics would you like to hear about this year? And the number 4 topic was sustainability and sustainability messaging. So yeah, it's really cool. And
yeah,
in this world of warehousing and material handling, we're talking about 3PLs, we're talking about logistics companies, steel companies, forklift companies, battery companies, a lot of the businesses that everybody in the world uses, but many people in the world have no idea they're using them. But if you get any product from online retailer to going to a store, it has taken part in the supply chain on many levels, probably as parts and then as a finished product. So it's pretty cool that this industry that really powers much of the world is focused on sustainability and communicating it properly. Messaging was the question that people wanted to hear about primarily. Okay. However, without having a good sustainability program in place, the messaging is premature. So I think it would be best to kind of start with understanding what a successful sustainability strategy includes. If you could kind of give us an overview of that.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed that out, because I think so often brands will know that that can be a differentiating factor for them. The industry expects it, their customers expect it, their employees are expecting it, and they want to rush to start talking about the things that they maybe could or should be doing, or maybe that they are doing a little bit of, and that can get you in trouble real quickly, especially today. I mean, communications is so hard when it comes to sustainability because there's so much pushback on greenwashing. And consumers are more savvy than ever. They've got an understanding. They've got a critical eye. So it's really important, I think, to dive into your strategy first. For me, I like to position things in three in threes, right? Easy to understand, easy to follow. And I think as you're building a program, I've got this little phrase I call it educate, empower, and activate. And it starts with this idea of building a foundation. So if you're going to build a sustainability program, if you want to have things to talk about, you have to kind of have a foundation first. And having that foundation, I think, includes, going back to what I talked about, making sure that your employees are educated and that they understand what we mean by sustainability. Even trying to unpack just like, well, what is sustainability? What does it mean? How do we define it? What does it include? What does it not include? Essentially, it's this idea of doing business better than, keeping in mind future generations. So doing the business now that you need to do now, but keeping future generations in mind so that we're not stealing from the future when it comes to environmental resources and just quality of life, et cetera, right? So, but it entails a lot of things. And especially when you're talking about supply chains, I mean, you can be looking at everything in every stage of the supply chain. And so when I talk about education and building a foundation for your team, it's really making sure that they understand the environmental and social impacts at every stage of whatever you're doing business at. So, right, we always go all the way back to the cradle. Where were things made? How were they made? What were they made of? And looking at every stage. So you've got your raw material extraction, raw material processing, putting your components together, manufacturing, distribution, selling, consumer use, end of life, right? You've got all of these things with all of the impacts. It gets overwhelming. So I think the first thing you want to do is just get your team educated and make sure that they've got resources. And part of those resources, I think, comes, in financial resources as well. So making sure that you've got a team in place. Typically, you're going to identify, there's a reason we have sort of these old school green teams, right? You've got a team of people who are really passionate. And that's how my whole career in this started. I was passionate about it. I wanted to learn more. But I call this approach I call it the grilled cheese effect. And the grilled cheese effect is knowing that you've got to have heat from the bottom up. So your employees have to want this program, right? They've got to want it. You've got to have somebody driving that and getting excited about it. But that grilled cheese, that panini it only works, the cheese only melts when you've also got heat from the top down. So you've got to have buy-in from the top, right? From leadership. Somebody at the very most senior levels of the organization has to be an ambassador here and has to be a supporter and driving things. So making sure that there's a team in place, that they are recognized, that they are heard, that they are well funded. And it doesn't have to be over the moon, I get it, but you've got to carve out something, give it to them. So really just making sure that you've got a foundation in place and that everybody is aligned on the language and that you're starting to, kind of build your North Star and say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Here's a reasonable timeline, put your goals, start to talk about a strategy. But again, having that foundational knowledge, that understanding, some resources, a team, that grilled cheese approach, that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to do.
I've seen infographic there for sure. Like the
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. And I've got a lot of it too. And I've got this other infographic. Stick with me and try to follow along with this one. It's this idea that a lot of times if there's a pyramid when it comes to sustainability. And when I was in a sustainability role, you're sort of the tip of the spear, if you will, of the funnel, having access to all of the sustainability knowledge that's out there. You go to conferences, you're meeting everybody, and all of those sustainability pros are talking to each other in the same room about the same things, and you're getting filled with knowledge. Every time I went out, I became a better expert. I would come back to the organization and try to distribute all of that knowledge quickly to everybody else. And then time just goes by so quickly. And before you know it, you have a meeting with your leadership team, with management. And by the time you get to trying to get all of that info to everybody else, just things have happened, the calendar is moving, new budgets, etc., and you sort of miss the opportunity. My belief is that we need to flip that funnel, and that the rest of the team, the big part of the team, all of your employees are getting informed. They're getting the education. They're the ones being exposed to the conferences and the newest reports and things so that they can become experts. Because guess what? That one or two people that are in the department in sustainability, they're already educated. They know the space. Now today they're probably educated. So we've got to flip the funnel and build a strong foundation. The next thing is that idea of empowering with resources and getting your team the resources that they need and empowering them. So I often think a lot of companies will scramble and start to look for solutions and say, we need to have a sustainable product. We need to have a sustainable material or a solution of some sort. And so your employees will go to work trying to find what you've asked for. And all of a sudden they get all these resources that are coming into them, and they don't know whether they're good, if they're being oversold, if they're being greenwashed themselves. Like, I don't know if is this certification any good? Should I be looking for another one? So again, build it the reverse way. Empower your team with the resources, make them strong, make them smart so that they can intentionally go out and look for all of the resources that they want to sort of level up and start putting things in place for the company, right? So we're building a strong foundation. They can go out and start to look for the resources that they need depending on the goals that you've got. And those resources then are going to come in probably at every stage of where you've identified your biggest impacts are. So we call that this idea of going out and doing, you would start with a materiality assessment, it's called. So identifying which are your most material impacts at which stage of your product's life cycle. So your team can go out, start to gather those resources because now they've got support from leadership, they've got direction, they've got some resources in place, the team has allocated some budget, P&Ls and budgets now account for sustainability initiatives because they're not always cheaper. Often you're going to find yourself probably spending more in one place to hopefully offset costs in another. And then that third layer is really going out and activating and then scaling up. And all of this is going to take time. None of this is fast. I don't think this is anything that happens in a week or a month. It's a culture change. It's building new teams. It's putting teams in place. It's onboarding new vendors. So you're constantly kind of moving forward in the right direction and building your foundation. But once you've got a strong foundation, you've got the resources that you're looking for, then we start going in, putting it into place, building it into the culture, and start worrying about scaling it up and moving up into sort of that. Think of it in terms of scoring, right? In the very beginning days, you've got a low score, you're at the bottom of the ladder. Team starts to get stronger, you're building a foundation, you're putting resources in place, you're getting better at talking about it, you're doing training, you're aligning with new vendors. Your score might go up a little bit if we had a good scoring system. You start putting those products in place, you're seeing the environmental footprint come down, your social responsibility goes up, and then eventually you're sort of scaling up over time and becoming a better, more sustainable company. But there is no finish line with that. And I think that'll kind of, as we talk about communication, that's a big part of it as well. It is an ongoing thing. So I'll stop there for a minute because I know I've just been sort of jumping through everything. Where can we take this?
I think that's great. I think it's super great to break it down into 3 steps, and explaining the panini effect is pretty amazing too. It does bring me to communication though. I mean, I'm a PR guy through and through. Over 20 years of PR experience now, which is kind of wild in marketing. And so I always think about how to communicate that. But as you mentioned, consumers are more educated and their guards are up. They're almost looking for, and same with media and influencers, ways to punch holes in eco stories from companies, which is kind of sad, but I understand why we're in that state. So with that, at what point is it okay for a company to start talking about sustainability? They've made steps, right? They have a foundation. They have something that they're really proud to talk about that's backed up in fact, but how far along should they be before they tell anyone?
Yeah, I think that's a decision the company has to make internally. There's got, of course, so everybody gets aligned on this, and this is why we go back to that grilled cheese approach and making sure that you've got a team that includes leadership, so that leadership can say, hey, you know what? I know that we are committed to this. I know this is a long-term journey. I know where we're at. I feel comfortable about even letting our customers, our main suppliers, our main vendors, whoever it is, that this is important to us, and we are headed in this new direction, if you will. So I think at any stage, leadership can find comfort in just being honest and being being transparent and being pragmatic about it. No hyperbole, no getting out there and saying, well, we're now a sustainable company. Like we can never say anything like that. But what we can say is like, hey, you know what? We've just assigned somebody to a sustainability role in the company. Hey, we've got a new team, somebody representing all the divisions in the company now, that we've built this cross-functional sustainability committee, and they're going to be reaching out to you. So you've got communication now internally and externally. You might start talking to your suppliers. You're going to talk. So there is communication work that you can do without broadcasting it to the whole world to say, we've made a bold step or we've made a lot of progress. I think there's just a lot of communication that can be done before you get to that point. A lot of companies will keep that communication in-house for years and years, and may even never get to the point of really blasting it out to their clients or to the public, because they're just like, listen, you can poke holes in almost anything that we're doing. There's always but what about this, right? Well, you're doing this, but why aren't you doing this? So, and a lot of times that criticism is going to come from an outside world or crowd that may also not be as informed. So then you're spending your time with all of your experts going, oh my gosh, okay, so now I have to explain this, and I'll position it, and I'll give them the research and explain the certification. It's almost too much work. So I think you can start at any time internally, and then you're just sort of working your way up and deciding, when you're going to continue to turn that dial, if and when you're going to turn that dial up. But you're working on that together. So, but before you do any communication to the public, you've got to substantiate what you're doing, and that really comes with having somebody that can really either you're quantifying the impact that you're having. Or if you're qualifying it, you're saying, hey, we are aligned with some of the best standards, the best certifications. We've got third-party auditors and people who are really looking at what we're doing. Somebody else can verify the work that we're doing and that we're saying that we're doing. And here is the proof. And all we're doing is just showing you what has actually happened. We're not trying to paint it in any other way aside from these are the facts, if you will. So I think kind of the first level is substantiating before, do your in-house communication, align your teams, align your supply chain, and then if you are slowly becoming more confident, substantiate for sure what you're about to say before you say it, and then go out there and then go ahead and say it.
That's really helpful. One thing, a question I had on that, if companies are looking to substantiate and they're not sure what certifications or what third parties are helpful, would you be a good resource for that, or do you have someone else or somewhere you'd send them?
Yeah, you can definitely find somebody like me. You can find a sustainability consultant. What I really appreciated doing was two things. Finding your industry's sustainability network, right? If you've got, everybody has some sort of trade group that they are a part of, and it's almost guaranteed that either that trade group has sort of a subdivision that's focused on sustainability. Start sending your team over to that and that little network, because a lot of times you're going to find different certifications and different expectations that are going to be industry specific, right? You mentioned whether it's steel is going to have something different than automotive, is going to have something different than fashion, is going to have something different than carpentry, right? Everybody has sort of their different things, and you're going to want to make sure that you're speaking the language that is appropriate to your industry. So I think you can, that's one place to go. And then also in your industry, you're going to have sort of best-in-class peers that are doing great things. And you're going to look and say, wow, who's really doing something? I keep hearing that this is the sort of sustainability superstar in our industry. Everybody talks about them. Once you start getting into this circle, you'll start to hear the names and the companies of who are doing. Your employees will start to say, well, we should be doing it like somebody. When I was at Volcom, in our early days, it was always about Patagonia, right? It's like, well, sure. They did, and we learned, and so you learn. And the way I learned is then, okay, well, let's go and look at what Patagonia is doing. Let's read their sustainability report. Let's read the publications that they are putting out. What is Nike doing? What is Adidas doing? What are some of the best companies in the world who have the most sophisticated programs? I would go and study their sustainability reports that are put out every year. At the time, still, these are 100-page documents plus that address every part of their value chain. And what you're doing is you're going through, like, well, who is that organization that they use to certify their cotton or their recycled materials, or that is doing their energy efficiency programs? And then you learn about them, you click on them, and before you know it, you're shot out to somebody else. and you're picking up on all of the best practices from 2 or 3 different organizations, so you can sort of build a wealth of knowledge that way, plus your industry trade group. Those are going to be your most sort of organic way to kind of root that into your organization. Otherwise, you're going to go to a consultant who's just going to give you a list, and you'll be like, "Thank you very much. Check it off the, we've got a checklist here, and we'll start doing these." I like kind of building it from the ground up, and I think those 2 ways that I mentioned are really, really effective ways.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, I think this really helped. It really covered the topic. It gave people some real steps to take. And then if they want more information to reach out to you, what would be the best way to reach you?
Yeah, if you go to my website, it's theunderswell.com. That's the best way. Find me on LinkedIn. If for some reason they've got a personal connection to you, you can always put them in touch with me. But either my website has all the information for the School of Understanding. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm happy to just kind of shoot some quick notes out. Always happy to just kind of do a quick question. But if you want to put your company or your team through a deeper dive and start to really build that foundation so that you can then scale up, then that's where I definitely help. But I just hope people remember just not to jump out too quickly and to really focus on building your foundation. This is a long game. I think when it comes back to communication as well, you want to make sure that we're never sort of putting a finished flag on it. There's no checkered flag, I think, in sustainability, because there are just too many things that we are dealing with, whether it's energy, water, biodiversity impacts, climate, air pollution, water pollution, waste, you name it, like every impact that you can think of, human impacts, how people are treated, how people are paid, what their working environments are like, etc. Across every stage of your supply chain. Nobody is doing it all right all the time and can say, you know what, we are a sustainable company. Nobody can. So that's the biggest warning that I leave our listeners with, your listeners, is to just don't try to get out ahead and be a part of sustainability by saying that you are a sustainable company. Be a part of sustainability by really having a strong foundation, having a good program, having a good strategy in place, give it some breathing room, have time, and just build a new culture around it. Make it a part of your culture at your organization. And that's where you're going to really see the benefits of it all.
That's really strong advice, Derek. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And I hope our
Welcome.
listeners.
Thanks, Ashton. I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome.